For those of you who are watching this live stream, I want to say again, good morning to you and welcome you to the African American Family Institute Community Symposium that has been held February the 25th to today, the 26th. We want to again thank our sponsors today, our Daytona Beach City Commissioners. We want to thank our mayor, Mayor Derek Henry, and also our host at church, New Mount Zion Baptist Church, and its lead pastor, Pastor Patrick Harding. And so we're grateful today for those who have saw the need to help support community and to support family. Listen, we are now entering this particular panel about bettering relationships. And today we have with us, as a part of our guest panelists, is the person of Elder Henry Burson Jr. and also Lady Doris Burson. They are a local ministry team that located here in the Volusia County area. They have a ministry called Greater Faith and Love Ministries. They have a broadcast weekly on Sundays at 8:30 a.m. on WYND radio station here, FM, here in Volusia County as well, and also a Sunday afternoon at 1:30 p.m. I'm so glad to have you, Elder Burson, Mrs. Burson, today to be a part of this panel for bettering relationships in the African American Family Institute. Welcome again, and won't you greet us this morning?
Well, praise the Lord.
Yes.
Well, we're glad to be here. I cannot emphasize how much we appreciate the opportunity and the invite.
Yes, sir.
To be able to be a part of this great symposium. I've enjoyed, I was here yesterday for most of the day, and I've been here this morning, and I've enjoyed it. I really did. Even though we have not had the public inside, we thank God for the streaming and for your vision to improve the African American family. We know that what you're doing is heartfelt, and I know that there's going to be a difference because of your ministry. And this is my wife, Doris, as you already said. You know, we are a pastor, she's the leading lady of Greater Faith and Love Ministry, 1225 A Street. That's where we're located. We're there Sunday mornings at 10:30. And as Pastor already said, we've been blessed. For the last 3 years, we've got a radio broadcast that comes on every Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m. And we started this past year coming on in the afternoons at 1:30 p.m. We were blessed to get such a response from the public that the radio station they charged us, but we were able to get another spot. It wasn't free. Amen. But we're just glad to do what God has assigned us to do, to deal with relationships, and primarily with marriage. What we often say that the principles we teach can work with family relationships. That's father, mother, children,
relationship,
brothers, sisters, brothers, and everything like that. But we focus primarily on marriage. So I'm going to let
Lady Doris, would you greet us this morning, and we'll get started after that. I want to say good morning to you as well.
Good morning to you, Pastor, and to the shepherd of this house. Good morning to each and everyone that is here. It's just a blessing to be here. We thank God for having the opportunity, and thank you for the invite for us to come and share your symposium with the African American Family Institute, which I think is a great work that you have started and begun, and is much needed in our area. So we thank and we bless you, Betsy, and everyone that's here. And again, thank you for having us.
Yes, ma'am. And I want you to know, here in our community, I found out that there are resources already within our region, people already doing work, who already have passion and compassion to see families grow in relationship. And so this couple, I have witnessed and watched their radio broadcast, and also on Facebook too, man, in fact, Facebook Live. And so I've had an opportunity to actually hear their teaching and their passion toward making couples work and making relationships better. So I would like to say a word of prayer, and I'm going to get started this morning. Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this time together, and most importantly, thank you for our guests. Thank you for those who are live here with us present. Thank you for those who are watching live by live stream. And God, we pray now your anointing, your grace upon us to encourage and to help, to teach, and to instruct. And so, Father, we pray now that your presence will be upon us, your word will be in us, and that your people be glorified, be lifted up, elevated, and even your name glorified. I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. 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 So this panel today, I want to start from the perspective of the African American Family Institute and our perspective of good relationships and better relationships. And so we realize that any family dynamic, my work and focus is changing family dynamics through education. And I think that family, first of all, starts with relationships. And so who we partner with, who we are in communion or companionship with makes the difference. And so I want to start this morning with a few clips from a PowerPoint called Two is Better Than One. Now, we realize now that in the society in which we live, family dynamics are changing. And so we do realize that there are single moms, there are single grandmothers raising children. We may believe that there are now same-sex marriages that exist. And we never thought we would end up in those spaces. But we are there. But so the African American Family Institute wants to raise argument. Is that the best practice? Is that the best model? And the outcomes in our children and families, is it producing a better community? So we must raise the question. We must raise the argument, especially within Christendom. There are first biblical principles that set a pathway for good relationships. And so I found out as a local pastor, as a spiritual clinician, that it is necessary for us to investigate our engagement with relationship and companionship. And so I want to start, first of all, with one of the slides that says that every relationship is intentional. So I want to put on the screen for a moment the intentional model. In other words, everything about your relationship was and is intentional. The person that you have ended up with was and is your choice. You were not forced together. You were not chained together. Neither were they any other thing left but for you to choose. And so you picked them out. Here's what I'm finding out as I talk to families and begin to relate to families. The problem is that people are now blaming their bad relationships on somebody else. Somebody say amen to that. And the problem of it is a human choice for every relationship, for companionship. It is a human choice. If your relationship is going to be successful, there must be a pathway to your success. And so we're asking today that you understand that good relationships are not accidental. They are intentional. In other words, the choices that you make, the actions that you take, shall and will create the type of relationship that you will find yourself in. I want to go to the next slide very quickly, and I want you to understanding your why is my focus of my conversation today as it relates to relationships. Whether you are married, dating, whether you are engaged, why have you chosen the partner that you have chosen? Why this person you've invited into your personal space? You invited them into your personal life. You invited them to the unseen things because you said, Pastor David, this is the person that is for me. I want to push a button this morning just for a moment to each one of you and ask the question, why? Why them? Why now? Why not someone else? Listen, I want you to ask you today, you got to realize there are millions of people in the world, but you chose the person that you are with today. Whether good or bad, the choices now I want you to contemplate, I want you to assess, I want you to reflect. Why did I involve myself with this individual? Why must we answer the question why? Someone asked me. In the simplest way, I want to raise an argument to this why. What definition of the word why means for what reason or for what purpose? Now listen to this. Some of you think that you're just hanging out with somebody just to hang out with them. But can I say to you, there is a reason that you got with that person. There is a purpose you got with that person. Let me just push the button a minute. Perhaps the reason is, Pastor, I was lonely. I needed companionship. Or perhaps, Pastor, I needed intimacy. And I went and got engaged with this person, involved myself with this person for intimacy. Matter of fact, Pastor, I needed to be validated. No one was validating me in my life. And so I needed somebody then to validate me. Or perhaps I needed a companion just to talk to me. There is a reason and a purpose that you have engaged relationship, whether it be a friend. You're just not friends with that person to be a friend. That person is a friend to you because they bring validation to you. They bring affirmation to you. They bring hope to you. That's why that individual is your friend. You're choosing friends and relationships because of your why. And so today, I want to ask you, what is your why? Why have you engaged relationship, whether it be a friend, whether it be the relationship with your family? Why are you involved in that relationship? I'm suggesting today that there were a reason and a purpose, you are sitting next to the person that you may be sitting to right now on live stream or perhaps in the sanctuary today. I'm suggesting to you that partner that you have chosen them for a particular purpose and a reason. And can I say to you that may be the thing that leads to your disappointment, because the reason that you got involved with them or the purpose that you got involved with them, that expectation you had about them, they have changed, and therefore the relationship to you is no longer good. And so today you must identify your why. You must understand what this is about. I want to jump a couple of slides down. Can you jump down to the young man inside of the suitcase? And I'm going to end there, and I'm going to introduce this to our guest today. I used to do a marriage counsel singles retreat about the luggage in your closet. And I want you to know that in a relationship that you go into, that you bring luggage, and that person brings luggage into your life. You don't know what that person has done for the 18, 20 years of their life before they met you. You don't know their ideologies. You don't know their belief system, but you got into a relationship with somebody that you're now trying to learn. But what happens is they show you their best self while you're dating them. But once they get you, they open the suitcase and show you what's inside. And that's what I'm finding out as a pastor, as a spiritual counselor and leader, is that people are getting shocked because of what they're discovering later on in that relationship. Pastor Jacob, I didn't know he thought like that. I didn't know he did that. I didn't know he didn't like coming home at night. I didn't know what. And guess what? But you chose that person, understanding that there were portions of that person's life you did not know anything about. We talk about dynamics, and I want you to understand. In the relationship you're in, you're going to be dealing with the dynamics of that person's past. Can you say amen to that? So whatever that person is, there is a story behind that person's existence. And so today I want to ask you, why in the world are you with the person you're with? Why in the world have you considered the man or the woman that you're with? I would ask you this, why have you considered the relationship you're in? What makes you say, Pastor Jacob, I'm committed to this relationship. I'm willing to make a family. I'm willing to commit and to say, I want you to know this in marriage. I've been married 36 years, going on 37 years this year. And I want you to know that every year in my mind, I have to know my wife. If I don't know my why, I will wear out. I will become weary. I will walk away if I don't know my why. So every year I assess my why. Why I got married. Why I fell in love with her. Why I'm still here. Why I want to remain here. And so every year I'm assessing my why. Because I know the enemy comes to steal, kill, and to destroy. He wants to deceive us of our thinking. He wants us to be irresponsible in our choices. And so therefore, this element of why, to know your why, will determine the relationships you enter into. It will determine how you commit to those relationships when you know your why. I married you because you make me a better person. I love you because you bring out the best in me. I love you because you've not judged me, but you have encouraged me. There are reasons I fell in love with you. And those reasons are the reasons that I stay. Those reasons are the reasons that I'm committed to you. And so when I look at that image, I want to put that image on the screen about this man in the suitcase, because guess why? There are people in relationships but are still living in the mentality of an old relationship. They're with you, but they're thinking about somebody else. And they're judging you by your actions because they're referring your actions to the person they were with previously. And so I'm saying to people that we must know our why. I wanted to begin this session today because there's a lot of you may be watching live by Facebook that you are by streaming live, that you may be saying, Kennedy, I'm tired of the relationship I'm in. I'm drawing weary of it. And I'm suggesting to you today, it may be because you have never discovered your why. You have never assessed your why. You have never reviewed and said, Lord, I don't know why I chose this person. What's my reason? What is my purpose for getting involved in this relationship? And so by me starting off that today, I think it's a very great segue for elder person and lady person to come and share, because they are now speaking about how to keep relationships vibrant, how to keep a relationship that is thriving, and more importantly, how to be successful in that union or that communion or with that companion. And so today I will again introduce to some of you and introduce to others Elder Henry Burson Jr. and also Lady Doris Burson. And they're coming to share with us today from Greater Faith and Love Ministry. Won't you give them a hand as they come to share with us today? Amen. God bless you again and welcome to the African American Family Institute Symposium.
Well, thank you, Doc. You said a lot there about the wife. And as I've already said, we deal primarily with marriage and singles. In fact, we did a conference a couple of weeks ago, and our singles response was just as loud as the married people, because a lot of them were of age, and quite a few of them had already been married, but these singles looking to mingle. There's some singles are satisfied, but there are some singles looking to mingle. And I couldn't help but smile when Doc began to ask you your why you got with this person. The first thought came to me, it was a bit of connection. What I mean is that my eyes locked with her. That was, I can never forget when we was in 8th grade. And we went to a party, and I saw her across the room, and I kept looking. Because she saw that I was looking. And then when she saw that I was looking, I kept looking some more. And then eventually I strolled across the floor and asked her to dance with me. And to just cut that story, kind of like it's a long story to cut short, is that we dated for a year in 8th grade. We were going to the same school, and the last day of school, during lunchtime, she met me in the courtyard, and she Henry Burson Jr. She called my whole name. When she do that now, I'm nervous. She said, "We through." She said, "I'm quitting you." And it was kind of like surprising to me, but then I didn't know why.
Yes, sir.
Because there was a why.
Know your why.
There was a why. She heard through the grapevine that I was being faithful, and she quit me. But what happened was, believe it or not, we went on to lead a different life. We actually went on through school together, and she married, and I married, and 43 years later, both of us had spouses that died. And I was living in Vero Beach, 2 hours from here, and I didn't even know her spouse had died. But just so happened in 2010, I was doing the census for the government, and her cousin, who lived in Vero Beach, knew that we had history. And when I filled out his census report and he signed it, he said, Dora's husband died. I said, no, I didn't know that. He said, yeah, he died how many years ago? It was 6 years ago. So he died 6 years ago. I said, well, my wife died. My wife died. She was sick for 4 years and she passed. He said, yes. In fact, that's why he was telling me, right? So with that being said, I started looking for her, because I'm originally from Daytona Beach. And whenever I came up to visit my mom or my dad, I went where she used to live. She didn't live there no more. I went where I knew she used to work. She didn't work there anymore. And it took me almost a year before I found her. And we reconnected, and 9 days after we reconnected, I asked her to marry me. Because I realized my why was she was what God wanted me to have. She met the criteria I was praying for. It wasn't a matter of just the feelings. Now, most times we have these biological feelings we call love. Can y'all tell me? Let me hear the word love. Love. Most times we connect because of love. And sometimes we disregard all the stuff that comes with the man in the suitcase. We don't think about the suitcase. Right. You know what I mean? So when we hook up with him, and then all of a sudden the suitcase opened up, we find out that there's a lot of stuff that we didn't know. Because you never know a person until you marry. Now that's just a fact of life. Even when you live with them, you can live with them 2, 4, 5, 6 years. And I've heard so many people say, when I married him, he went crazy. Things changed. Because marriage is spiritual. God created marriage. When he put Adam and Eve together. And he told Adam that he was, Adam said, this is bone in my bone, flesh in my flesh. And he said, I will call this lady woman, man with a woman. That's what a woman is, a man with a woman. And so therefore, He said, a man would leave his mom and his dad. I got to say that. Say, leave his mom and dad and cleave to his wife. Because they become one. Marriage is the oldest institution that exists. Before God made the church, he made marriage. Before he made ministry, he made marriage. And what men must, and I talked about this earlier, what men must understand, particularly if you're a pastor, your first ministry is your wife. Her first ministry is the man. T.B. Jakes wrote a song some years ago that actually emphasized this. I want you to play that song, You Are My Ministry. Just play that. This song we played during the time when we had our, reception. This is what we did our first dance on. Turn it up, bro. Turn it up. Thank you. You know, I said something earlier about husbands. Now, what draws us together is that thing, that attraction that God put between a man and a woman. You know, you saw your husband and he saw you, and somehow you all started talking, and you all became friends. The friendship became stronger, and eventually he felt as if you were the one, and you felt as if he was the one, and at some point he popped the question. And he asked you to marry him. And once you marry, then the Bible says you're no more two, but you become one flesh. But the problem is you got to work on being one. Because that initial feeling that brought you together, it has a tendency to decrease. It's not as strong as it used to be. And now love must become intentional. What I mean is that you must do what love does. You must do what you're supposed to do as a husband and as a wife. I want to deal with some of the things that might happen that causes couples to divorce. Because after a while, as I said, when that chemistry dies down, and now you don't feel like loving him or loving her like you ought, and sometimes these things begin to happen in marriage that cause people to divorce. And we want to address that because it's necessary in order for you to stay together to learn how to deal with it. I'm asking my wife to read where it says reason why couples break up.
Here's some reasons why they break up. They communicate poorly. Many couples lack the skills that enable two people to relate to each other effectively. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know themselves. Marriage partners who lack insight into themselves, their families, and each other. They fail to understand a spouse's needs and values. Then they marry for the wrong reasons. For example, to escape an unhappy life at home, to avoid the pain of a past relationship, or simply because of pressure from parents or society. They have the wrong attitudes. Couples who seek divorce as a quick and an easy way to solve problems may not take necessarily the necessary steps to sustain the marriage. Isn't love enough?
That's the question. People say, well, is it love enough? People just say, well, I'm marrying him because I love him, or I'm marrying her because I love her. But as I said, that chemistry sometimes will wane. It's going to die. It's not going to be as strong. And so therefore, there are things you must do in order to make love. Because love is, it's not just in the bed when you make love. Make love, love is daily. Doing the things daily to make love. And that for love to grow, a couple needs to what, babe?
It needs to rebuild their relationship.
Need appreciation. Each partner values the other for the unique person they are. You need to appreciate each other.
They need independence. Okay, each person recognizes that others' needs to enjoy activities that further their personal growth. And then they need interaction. Two people who are alive to each other's presence as they speak, they listen, and they share.
These are the things that must be done in order to make love work. First of all, you got to appreciate each other. You got to realize that this is not your child. So we need our time, our personal time. There's a time when men want to be with the boys, just get away, recreational time. Men need recreation. Am I right about it? Women need space. So there's a point of independence. You know, one of the things I emphasize to ladies and men, the Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. What's so important is that you have peace, you have joy in your relationship with God. You need to be happy by yourself. And I say this to those of you who are single. You must learn to be happy by yourself. Too often when people get married, they're looking for somebody to make them happy. And that's a difficult job to try to make somebody happy. But when you're happy with who you are and your relationship with God, you have the joy of the Lord, which is our strength. Then when you find a person that you fall in love with, or you all fall in love with each other, they only add to your happiness. And I tell the young lady quick, I say sometimes divorce comes. Am I right about it? We talk about divorce. But if you knew how to be happy before he came, you would know how to be happy when he leaves. You don't have to feel so connected when he's abusing you and misusing you, and you realize that you're so connected to him, you're afraid to leave him. But you can recall the time that the real joy, your real love, is your relationship with God. Okay, we say the song, can't nobody do me like Jesus. So when you got the joy of the Lord, and you get to a man too, or you get to a woman too, you got double joy. Am I right, sir? You got double joy. And so now, what you must do to keep the joy in the marriage, you must recognize certain things that you did to get that woman. You got to do the same thing to keep her. You hear what I'm saying? And I said this earlier about women. Women look for certain things from a man because God made y'all like that. Part of Eve's curse, if you remember this, is that she was when God began to deal with Adam and Eve after they had, ate the forbidden fruit, whatever that fruit was. He told the man that he was going to have to till the soil. In other words, he was going to have to work hard. He gave Adam a job before he gave her Eve. Remember this here. The man should have a job before he married you. Adam had a job before God put Eve and Adam together. Then he told the woman, he said, in pain you're going to bear children, but your desire should be unto your husband. In other words, there are things about the man that he's going to be able to fulfill in your life that nobody else can. Your husband can fulfill that nobody else can. But in so doing, it must be intentional. He must do what it takes in order to make you happy. Now, Sister Person knows, my wife knows, that one of the things that we did before we even got together was we talked. We talk with each other. Most times it's talking with each other that brings you together. How many remember, well, since you're the only one married here, how many times you remember you just stayed on the phone talking and didn't have nothing to say? I mean, you didn't really wasn't even saying nothing, but the idea that the two of y'all were on the phone together. Am I right about it? Went to sleep and don't even know you went to sleep. Can't even remember what you talked about. But the fact of the matter, you were there, he was talking to you, and you were talking to him. That meant a lot. Am I right about it? But then, two of them, when they get married and get together, you stop talking. You know, the man said, well, we talk. Well, we talk about bills, talk about children. But how many times do we talk about your dreams, your aspirations, those deep questions? How do you feel about your job? How do you feel about this house? What do you want in the future? You know, they call that building matters, love matters. That's what you did before you married. You want to know all about it. And then before you married, you want to know her opinion or his opinion. How many times they tell about the fact that when we talk about where we're going to go out, you want to know where I want to go, and I want to know
where you wanted to go.
And I say, well, I go where you want to go.
And I said, I go where you want to go.
I said, no, I want to go where you want to go.
I said, no, I want to go wherever you go, I go.
In other words, we want to what each other wanted. And that stops sometimes when people are married and been together so long, you know, say, well, I'm going to Red Lobster. She said, I don't want to go to Red Lobster. Then I come back and say, well, too bad, that's where we go. How is going to make her feel? She going to remember, well, before we married, right, you want to go where I want to go. That's building love. That's building connection. That's the stuff we do in friendship that you got to continue to do after you marry. Find out what each other want and see if they fulfill each other's life. And that helps bond you. That helps make you the one person that the Bible says you are in the spirit. That's how you become one in the natural. Not only that, another thing that helps marriage is fondness and admiration. Fondness and admiration. You know, you did little things for fun before you married, right? You know, talk. Sometimes I had to pull a nose, you know. That's a little something I do. You know, a little fun thing, a little fun pack. You know, you go places, you have fun. And not only that, I tell her how good she looks. You know, how many times your man told you how good you look before you married? How good you smell. You didn't have to ask him how you smell. Get up. Oh, baby, you smell. Right. I like that too long. Now you change it long, you don't even hear him say nothing. Affirmation. And you used to tell him how good he looked. It goes two ways. You tell the man how well, you look good. I don't know that you go out and do dates. I don't know. I mean, things like that, you affirm one another. That's so important if you build a relationship. Now, why I say that works either way, you do that with people on your job or people in the school, with your friends. You tell your friends that, man, I like that suit. I like that dress. Am I right about it? Those things make you bond you, bring you closer together. It makes you love each other. Everybody loves compliments. Who don't like compliments? You know why you love compliments? What's your name? What's your name? Tell me your name. Your mama told you. What's your name? You know, don't you like for your mama to say, good job? You did a good job, mama. Don't you like to hear that? You did a good job. You know why you like to hear that? Because God loves compliments. He's always saying, bless the Lord, oh my soul. Let everything that have breath praise the Lord. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good. And we made in his image and his likeness. So therefore, it's not that we're conceited or we're proud, but the thing within us, it goes, it moves, compliments, moves. And you know what, about a woman, I'm talking about a woman. A woman needs affection like a car needs gas. If you don't put the gas in the car won't go. You hear what I'm saying? And affection, understand this, young lady, affection is not necessarily sex. See, but a man will think that affection is sex. Affection is, let me open up that car door for you. Affection is, don't you pick that up, I pick that up for you. I got you. Am I right? That's affection. Affection brings out just holding your hand. Don't want no sex. I just want to hold your hand. That's what you did when you dated. Am I right about it? Girlfriend, we used to call it girlfriend and then boyfriend. Old folks used to call it girlfriend and then boyfriend. Just want to hold their hand. You know, one thing, Pastor Holly, one thing I hate, I don't know when it started, about probably in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, when they started making the bucket seats. Because before the 90s, they had one seat in the front. And every time I go, I would pick up dollars, she'd be right up under me, right next to me. That's affection. Affection is when you walking in the mall and he going by his old girlfriend, and right before he gets to his old girlfriend, he reaches over and kiss you right in front of the old girlfriend. That's affection. That's a statement. He's all mine. Can I get a witness up in here? He's all mine. And see, men must understand that affection don't cost. It's just a thought.
I had a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
I want to ask you, if I can do one of the questions. I want to, you shared, obviously, you both have talked about how to, I call it enhance, to enrich a relationship, right?
Yes.
We realize that there are persons that are watching, persons here that are live, that are not married, I'm just in a relationship. And so one of the first things is that some viewers, even some that are present here today, so that's the traditional model of family, right? That's the traditional model that we date, we get married, we do whatever, right? But the problem is that understanding how do we get to that point. So as it relates to the African American Family Institute, my question and query is this, when I'm hearing this teaching and dialogue, is to say, for persons who say the desire to get married, I want to start there. We live now in a society that lost its desire to do what you're talking about, the traditional marriage. In other words, they say it's better to live together, just be your own person, and just enjoy the benefits of what? Companionship. And society is accepted because why? They say do what feels good to you. Be your best self is what the terminology or rhetoric that goes around. So first of all, to the both of you, if there are viewers, if there are those of you who don't have a traditional model or example of what you just spoke about, marriage and enjoying and enriching the marriage, how do we first even get people to understand that marriage is a part of best practices for families? See what's happening, families are being formed, but marriage is not the best practice to form families. So there are now single homes, I'm just gonna give me a baby, it's me and my baby. Or there's some man that he's going around enjoying the being promiscuous in so many ways and has no responsibility to commit to a woman. He just enjoys a woman's company. He enjoys being with you, enjoys perhaps he may have a baby, but he's never had an intention to commit to you. So how do we speak to families, young adults, even if we have college age students here today, how do we begin relationships and understand that relationship should have a pathway? In other words, I'm dating you, and it's just for companionship, it's just for companionship. And processing that. I'm not going in a relationship with you to marry you, but deciphering that and also knowing how to evolve to that point. But I've asked two things. How do we get a desire to be married? Another thing I think I eventually asked is that understanding and discerning what kind of relationship that you are involved with, so your expectations are realistic.
Well, first of all, let me go ahead. I'm glad you asked that. Let me say this here, and I'm just being down to earth. I believe most of all today why people don't get married, because they can have sex. They can, again, the old people used to say, well, why buy a cow when you get the milk free? And so one of the motivations to get married was to be able to have sex. So a lot of people don't even know that sex is promiscuous in the sight of God. I mean, a lot of church people, the Bible does say marriage is honorable and the bed undefiled. But whoremonger and adultery God will judge. So I am inclined to believe we have more of just living together now and cohabitation because people don't wait no more. And most of the time I always tell the lady, if you don't put a standard, the man sure ain't gonna have no standard. He gonna go as far as you let him go. You understand what I'm saying? If Mary J. Blige, about a year ago, y'all know Mary, right? She was on the Super Bowl, okay? Yeah. A year ago they showed Mary and Usher together. I said, well, Mary and Usher man trying to put his hand on her thigh. She threw that thigh out. But they were showing the other day how she let it out. What was it? Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan at the playoff. I mean, at the NBA playoff, he had his hands down there. You know, people know stuff like that. But this girl, I remember again when we was in 8th grade, I was a good bad boy, and I asked her.
I always say, y'all.
And one time we was going on a trip, field trip, and we was sitting by the bus, and I said, Doris, I said, do you do sex? And she said, no. She looked at me like I slapped her in the face. I was so embarrassed, but I appreciated her standard. I respected that standard. And see what happens today, I know it has changed. And I'm going to that second question, but it's changed now where that's so active now. People are so sexually active. And you asked me how to deal with that situation.
I want, before you go to that second question, Lady Doris, I want you to chime in on this. Elder Burson brought this up, and I think it's relevant to those of us who are here. Sex is a motivator for relationship, and we will all be honest. In other words, there are people who are getting, I'm not saying friendship relationships, I'm saying because this is a foundation of building families only are produced through what? Intimacy, through sexual intercourse. Exactly. So that's the only way you can produce a child. And to produce a child, that child has to have sustainability. So sex is why the conversation is raised, because we can have sex and we can produce children, but it does not create a family dynamic that's healthy for the child. So Lady Doris, the reason I want you to challenge on this, because I think young ladies need to hear this and to understand this, is that when they are now approaching the years of, I call it sexual curiosity, where they're saying that I want to be in a relationship, I like whomever, and they're wondering, is this okay? And not looking at the outcomes. If I were to engage in this, am I understanding what this could lead to? So as a young lady, what do we say to young ladies when they are evolving, and I call it sexual curiosity, is that, can I do that too? People told me that feels good, but they're not thinking that this can produce a child or a family. They're not, you creating the dynamic, you're too young, perhaps not having jobs and so on, whatever the case might be, to sustain that child, but we didn't consider that in our curiosity stage. So what happens to young ladies, how can we give them suggestions or advice that when that curiosity stage comes, how do we maintain that? How do we process that?
First of all, they need to be educated. You know, it needs to come from the home, the mothers, the fathers, teaching them that outside of marriage, sex is a sin. Sex is not a sin when it's consummated after marriage. So you have to set some standards for yourself, some goals for yourself, that I'm not going to do this. Because like you said, an unwanted pregnancy could come up. There's so many sexually transmitted diseases that are out there that you could, be affected with, and some of them you cannot get rid of. So you have to set morals and goals for yourself. And just because you're liking a young man, or he's liking you, he could be only after one thing, and that's what they call the cookie. And once he gets the cookie, he's going on to the next victim. So you have to have some goals, some morals, and some standards set aside for yourself. And a lot of that is built under the education and instruction that you have gotten from the home, the mother, the father. You may have been in a home that you didn't have a mother or father, but either one of the parents is missing. But it needs to be taught at home, first of all, then it's spreads abroad. That will give you insight as to, oh no, I'm saving myself for my husband.
Well, you hit something, Lady Doris, that I think is very, very, very important. You first of all talked about instruction, and you said where it came from. It comes from the home. So here's the argument with the African American Family Institute. My argument is that we are expecting young adults, young children to make those kind of decisions when they have never gotten the instructions from home. That's why I feel burdened for the young generation, because we're telling them to do something that they have not really given the proper education to understand. understanding. And the second thing I wanted to address, something you said, you started the statement, you said, Pastor David, sex is sin. Well, in the academy or higher levels of learning, it is now communicated and articulated in collegiate environments that sex is not sin. So what they are dealing with a postmodern society, a society that says sex is not sin, it's normal, it's a part of the human existence, which that is true. It's a part of the human development, it's a part of the human need. But like anything, it must be in its proper context. So that education, Lady Doris, that you talked about, I think that's major. I think that you said from the home. What do you, and I'm going to give the other person to come back after this. What do you say to young people when they say, Mama, sex ain't sin, you did it. What sex is not a sin. So now we as adults must articulate that faith community that we speak of. But to be honest with you, we got to be practical to them to be able to tell them why sex is sin. So how would you respond to a young adult, young male, or young female, and they tell you that sex is not a sin?
Okay, let's put it this way. Sex, when it's done out of the oracles of God, sex is ordained by God. The husband and the wife, you have joined together and become one. Then it's a beautiful thing. God ordained sex, but he ordained it between a husband and a wife. And not just Mary, Tom, and Dick, and Harry out there single, because their hormones are flying, the flesh is rising. God did not ordain sex for that. He ordained that as a beautiful thing between a husband and a wife.
And here's a great part. If the young person had not received the information, the education that you started with, the first point must come from home, how do we get that message across if they never read the Bible? And that's what I think a famous discussion.
I think, it is difficult today because very few people are coming to church. A lot of young people don't come to church, and it's not really taught from the perspective of why do we have sex? Why did God create sex? Why did God create sex? He told Adam and Eve to be fruitful and multiply. One of the first reasons for sex was created is that to reproduce. That's how you reproduce. Then the other reason God created sex is because when you have sex, intercourse, you literally become one person. You literally. Now, you young people might not remember, but when we were young, dogs used to run free. And sometimes a big dog would hook up with a female dog that was, kind of small, and they would get stuck together. You remember that? You ever seen that? Yeah. and they were stuck because when one went one way, the other one went the other way, the same way. When one went that way, they went that way. Because they were one. So in sex, you literally become what God said you are in the spirit. You're no more two flesh, but you are one. So it is an expression of the oneness that God has declared you to be as husband and wife. That's the second reason for sex. And then the third reason God created sex, he wanted us to enjoy it. When you get that peak and you feel good, yeah, that motivates you to keep doing it with your wife or your husband. See, so those are the three things. First of all, is because of procreation. Second of all, and all of them are equally important. Second of all, is because you express the oneness you are. That when you took those vows and say you're no more two, but you're one, when you have sex, you become that one person. And the third thing, as I said, to enjoy. But see, everybody do it now basically just to enjoy and don't understand the reason behind it.
Here's what I want to address, because you bring something up, and I know that maybe viewers who may be probably dying right now, there may be church people who are dying right now, because when we talk about the subject of intercourse and sex, it is not even a communicative conversation that we have within the context of spirituality, the context of our Christian experience. However, it is one of the key components of our falling away from God. It is one of the key that makes us resist Christianity, because we say, I've done that, I can't go to church. And see, this is what I'm saying within the institute. We've got to have this kind of dialogue. Because we're telling the children, the young adults, to not do something. They have no understanding of what that means, but they're living in a society where these things are happening every day. Everything you turn on the television, everything that you is producing information. And so they're trying to decipher information, but we have to be able to articulate that information that is receptive, that they can approach it from what? A practical way. And this is what I've learned as a pastor. So when I'm now teaching and I'm talking the word of God and preaching what we know to be our truth and that we value as our truth, in order to win those who do not know that truth, we must first be able to meet them where they are and to give them, I call it, proper interpretation. Matter of fact, it's not wrong the way people think about it. In the course section thing. None of that is wrong. It is to interpret that and put it in proper context and translation. That's why we have different authors of different books. They might have different perspectives about a particular issue, and they now have written according to their what? Belief system. And so we're at this table today talking to perhaps some Christians, perhaps some who are non-Christian, and when they hear that traditional perspective or mindset, they give kickback. But here's what I'm trying to say. We're not trying to tell you to believe what we believe. We're trying to tell you to be open to have the conversation. Because for those of us who do live in a life of Christendom, and godly principles is the model for best practices for families, that's why our conversation, the basis of our conversation is such. Because we are now taking a Christian faith belief system and build what? Family modeling and practices off of that. So the one who is not a Christian, the one who doesn't have the information, what do you think that model looks like for them? And that's what we're trying to say. How do we connect that together? How do we do that? I think, Lady Doris, you definitely, and also as a person, you brought something I think is very instructional, is that it starts with education in the home and giving what you said, the meaning of it. I think if we can do that, we'll do well. So I want to, we are moving further in time, but I want to, these last 10 minutes, elder person, native person, I want you to share in this perspective. Somebody's watching you today, perhaps watching you today, they say, oh, I already know that. I don't know how to keep my husband. I already know how to keep my wife. That's wonderful. But what I'm trying to say to people that real people with real problems, trying to survive in a family, what would be our last 9 minutes of telling those persons or people, you can make it, and I know this is going to be probably a perspective of a Christian perspective, but how do we make it? I've been trying to do this whole symposium is to try to tell families how to go forward, right? How do you move forward? And so how do you tell those in relationship to be able to go forward in times like these? And that's what I think is so necessary, because I think some of the, what I call mechanics of a relationship have been hindered by why? All of the pressures, the pandemic, whatever you want to call it, is creating what? Divisiveness, is creating emotional issues that are now impacting the family. So how you, as you as a couple, how can you suggest to others to move forward in times like these when relationships are under strain, in my opinion, and under duress?
Put each other first. That's, for instance, I would say, I'll step out of marriage. Even if you got even just in a relationship, because marriage starts with a relationship. Put each other first. Do what it takes to please that person, as long as, I mean, what I mean is that the same thing you did, like, to make them feel good about themselves. Give them compliments.
Right.
Ask them, what would you want me to do to make your life better? Okay, let the kids, if you do have kids and you're not even married, let them see you all loving each other. Be an example of love. And so, because kids, they basically don't duplicate what they see love their husband and wife or not. They can just like be living together. But make sure you keep each other first. That's I put that thing, she's my first love. She's my first love. And she needs to know throughout our relationship that she's number one.
Right.
Am I right, ladies? We got ladies here. You want that man to make sure you know and others can see that you're number one. We have our bishop coming on with us in the radio in the morning. When I mean bishop, he's overseer. And he related the story how, he's been pastoring now a while. He started his church. One Sunday he come to church and his wife sniffing over there, up there crying. He said, baby, what's wrong with you? I ain't preached yet, so you can't get in the spirit. She said, she told about what she overheard what somebody said about her. He got in the pulpit. He said, let me tell y'all something. You all don't say anything or do anything to Lady Bill. You got problems with me when you deal with her. How do you think that made her feel? He made it clear to the whole congregation. When you mess with her, you messing with me. Do not bother her. He said, man, for the whole 2 weeks, he hear people saying, don't bother Sister Bill, don't bother Sister Bill. Make that person feel like they're the number. Make him feel like he's your king. Make him feel like, see, it's a lot to that charity start at home and spreads abroad. Too often we want to show others appreciation, especially as pastors, and compliment others when we haven't complimented our children. We haven't complimented our spouse. It goes with the children. Make those children feel special. Like the young lady asked, she said her dad didn't catch the eye, so to speak. She was bidding for his connection. Women do that all the time. They bid for connection. We do it as men. Bid for connection. How do I look? How do I smell? You know what I mean? What do you think that's connection. And so we must become intentional. We must become intentional. Babe, how you doing? I mean, and really sit there and listen. Listen to each other.
Yes, study each other to learn what they like, learn what they do not like. You gotta study your spouse.
Yes.
You gotta know how he's gonna react to a situation or she's gonna react to a situation. What the response, and over time, you get to almost know how your spouse is going to react to a certain situation because you studied your spouse, you learn what they like, what they dislike, and you try to come together, even when you're having some minor or some conflict. You know how to listen to one. You hear them, but you got to listen to what they're saying. So you grow by learning your mate, your spouse.
I think that, and I think that you guys conclude with a great point, is to making that spouse, that companion, that partner first. Here's what I would like to conclude with today, and I think is very interesting. I believe that we have not put family first. I think that's where we are today, putting each other first, putting my children first. Putting my wife first. We are all working toward that, right? Because Daddy, can you do this? I said, some days perhaps I can, some days I can't. But I think the objective is with putting people first means to put them first on your mind. In other words, that the motivation of the things you do have them what? Consider. You're the purpose and reason. Remember to know your wife. You're the purpose and reason I'm doing this. You're the purpose and reason that I want to do more. You're the reason that I want to accomplish more because I want to be a blessing to you. So today, and I was thinking here as I heard Lady Person and Elder Person speak, this is something that the Institute wants to foster. Real people speaking their language, their way. And guess what, guys? We are so opinionated that we want to hear it our way. We want the people that we like to say it our way. And we never open up platforms like this so we can hear it the way you communicate it. Because the way you communicate it, somebody will grab that, and the way that I communicate, they will never get it. And we don't set the platforms for that to happen. Today, I think that, and I want to say to the both of you, for living in front of others and trying to communicate that in front of others is the reason why I called you, because you're trying to not only do the work, but you're trying to live the work. And more importantly, you want other people happy. What else can you ask for? You can't ask anything better than that. Reverend Jacobs, our marriage is pretty good. We're going pretty well. But guess what? We're not satisfied. We're going back to make sure others can perhaps grow to where we are. And I want to appreciate that. I want to thank the both of you. I think that today, and I tell you this conversation, is so needed because I'm telling you, young people who they don't think they can talk to us. You can't tell me, Pastor Jacobs, what I really feel.
And Pastor Jacobs, I've been involved in this, but I don't know how to cope with that. I was in this relationship, it wasn't good, but nobody talked to me about it. And that's why I'm grateful with the points that you guys brought up, because those are the conversations in many churches you're not going to talk about. And if you talk about it, you may not be there long. And so I want to know that it's bigger than that. Obviously, we know the conversation is much bigger. But today, in this symposium about veteran relationships, I think that with the persons who have shared have done a great job. And importantly, the perspective in which they have come from are definitely some of the issues within the Black community, especially in the community in which I lead, in the community in which I pastor as well, that we are dealing with dynamics, we're dealing with understandings and interpretations and translations that are affecting negative outcomes. And we've got kids in middle school that are having languages and talks about relationship when they don't even know what they're talking about, right? And that's why our verse of things today, I think, can be applicable to families, can be applicable to young adults. So listen, I want to, well, it's been a great 2 days. It's been a fantastic 2 days. Pastor Person and Lady Person, thank you both. And obviously, we never have enough time because time goes so fast, but we're grateful for your coming and your sharing today. I want to thank our attendees that have attended with us here live. I'm grateful for every person that has come to this door. Somebody asked me a couple of days ago, Reverend Jacobs, what is a success to you if that symposium is successful? I said, when one person's life is touched. And my life was touched. And so I've been blessed. There are people who have been healed who have also been blessed. So we're grateful and thankful. I pray that those of you who have watched have been blessed as well. Now listen, you're going to hear more from the African American Family Institute. It is a community organization that monthly we will be sharing education on platforms here in the community where we'll be teaching to young adults or teenagers, all things concerning and pertaining to family dynamics. And so I want you to watch us, follow us on our website. Is the African American Family Institute.org. The African American Family Institute.org. I am Kennedy Jacobs. I am the founder, but more importantly, doing the work to find out how can we better families from a spiritual perspective as well as a community perspective as well. Again, let me give a shout out to our sponsors, our city commissioners here at Daytona Beach. Each one of you, let me say God bless you and thank you for your involvement, your engaging this particular endeavor. I want to thank our Mayor Derek Henry. Thank you again for your belief in families. And again, we want to say thank you to New Mount Zion Baptist Church for all that you have done and all that you will continue to do. Pastor Patrick Harding, thank you so much for the work that you have done. We're grateful and thankful for this time together. So let me say to you, from the African American Family Institute, you have made this a wonderful, wonderful experience. My heart has been lifted and I'm glad, but more importantly, we pray that some family have been helped. Again, until the next time, God bless you from the African American Family Institute Symposium. Have a wonderful